in terms of yourself? So
You know, this question really depends on what we call the terroir you have. Okay, for example, my terroir is clay and limestone. This is a cold soil, so the influence of the sun, of the dryness, of the heat, of the rain is less important than when you have a sandy or gravel soil. Okay, if it's very rainy or if it's I'm on the slope, so the influence of the vintage is less important when you have this type of terroir than when you have a sandy or gravel soils. And in Bordeaux, most of the time, the trend is given by the journalist and with the left bank. Okay, the left bank. So. Pauillac, Margaux, and the big, very famous appellation, and this is what they judge first. Okay, so on the left bank, the influence of the vintage is very important because the soil is more sandy or gravels. So maybe this is what I think. Maybe not everybody agrees, but on my side, the influence of the vintage is not as important. I mean, every year I can make a very good wine.
I don't know if you know that, but Austria has been a very hot summer in France. 15,000 people died during August because of the hot weather. Yeah. All the old people didn't drink enough and they died.
Water.
So every
water.
Good point, because sometimes we have to say that we have also drink water. And everybody in France is thinking that the best vintage in the last 20 years is Austria because the summer was so warm. And to make a good wine, we need to have a warm summer. So everybody's saying that Austria is the best vintage. On my point of view, Austria is the worst vintage in the last 10 years. Because it was so hot that the grapes were cooked and not ripe enough. 01 was just after 2000. It was for me a very good vintage in the Cote de Bordeaux. But because it was just after 2000, nobody spoke about 01. Nobody spoke about 03. I'm buying big wines every year. 03, I'm not going to drink them. I'm going to sell them. So it also depends on what you're looking for.
And, in fact, in our vineyards, we have many Cabernet, and we have 1/3 of Cab Franc and 1/3 of Cab Sauvignon and 1/3 of Merlot.
And how big is the acreage or the yours? Is it?
Oh, it's 21 hectares.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this Cabernet based?
Yeah, it's based on Cabernet.
And the first one
Was a 50-50 Merlot Cab.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is not using the Cote. And usually we are more at 70 or 80% Merlot.
Yeah.
Lamé is famous for being high percentage of Cabernet.
And so this one matured around 1 year in French oak, and a lot of people say 1 year, but in fact it depends really of the vintage. Sometimes we taste the wine when we arrive near 9 months, and we taste it regularly, and sometimes we stop the maturation at 10 or 11 months, or sometimes it's if we have a very rich vintage, we can go to 15 months. But we call 1 year aging, but it depends really. Christophe told you, we are all winemaker and coming from a family winemaker, so we can't spend a lot of time outside of our estate. So we have to we can find some few weeks in the year, but we can spend 2 weeks outside of our estate. So of course I know that I have to go back to New York and find somebody, but the time is too short.
We are drinking the wine in oaks, but 30% of new, 30% of 1 and 30% of 2 years. For me, about those, it depends of the vintage. In fact, the woman just in front of me asked just 10 minutes before which is the best vintage. For me, it's the next, because for me, my passion for wine is to create wine.
Jerome said the same for wife.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
The next one.
Married
It's possible.
13 years, 14 years.
I can help you create wine, but not room.
Okay, yeah. Different story.
But for me, it's to create, and the last one is finished. So don't forget it.
Okay.
Just after to drink, but,
Bien allumé.
oui. But every year we hope to do better than the last year. So,
Lamb?
in fact, we have a wonderful job because if you're thinking about our work, we can do marketing, we can do sales, we can do production. We have some creation about the labels.
Starting from the soils, you're going to the customer, doing all the jobs.
Yeah,
it's,
I know.
it's the best.
That's the
All
good part.
around.
And you control all.
You're working by
It's very,
yourself.
it's difficult because it's
Yeah,
hard,
no,
but
I know.
it's very attractive because of that. Because you control all.
Yeah.
The labels, the product, the selling, so it's very, very interesting for that. The only one problem is the time, because we have just one life and we want to do a lot of things, but it's difficult.
I have a question then. So, in terms of your volume, how many people are working for you or working together with you? So you are a family business, if I understand you correctly. So how many people are involved in decision making, for example?
I don't like to work, so. In fact,
with journalists.
I'm looking to find the best man or best woman in every place and to work with them.
Yeah.
Because
So how many best women and men you have?
Well, I think he needs to answer that question.
There's no more best women.
for me, for the production, we have 45 hectares and we have 6 persons.
For 45 people.
But after, we can employ some people, not all the time.
So
And
Punctual.
then
for the sales, the best way is to find the people in every country to have interest, and it's not only trust. It's it's wine, but it's
a passion too.
like an adventure. You meet somebody, and you
back
you
to
want
this,
to work with him.
All are the same.
For me, it's to create something, to build something. For example, I am working in US with Neil Rosenthal. I know him for the first time in 86, 87. So now it's 22 years. So we have big experience and we are like friends. And it's the same for every country. I try to have that. At first, to have people who have the same passion like me. That's the most important. Even